Welcome to the Krystal Jackson Show. I'm your host, Krystal Jackson, and I'm so excited that you're here so that you can learn from the top performers in sports, business, and entrepreneurship and how they gain their unique mindsets to reach their fullest potential. And here's what's great. This is possible for you too. You're just one mindset shift away from accessing your fullest potential and achieving all of your dreams. In this show is where you will find the inspiration and motivation you have been looking for. No matter where you are in life, remember, it is all happening now. My name's Krystal Jackson. This is the first episode of the Krystal Jackson Show. And to be very honest, I was saying to my husband, I don't know how to start it. How do we start this podcast? And I've interviewed a lot of people. So It's interesting because it's easy for me to interview other people, to start it, to make them feel warm and welcome. And then the light's now on Krystal and it's like, whoa. And I've had a podcast before. So
I know. Actually, I have a theory on this. I have a theory. It just came to me.
Okay. Yeah.
Typically, you probably have the same intro, or you're like introducing that person, all their accolades, how awesome they are, how they're contributing to the world. And you just kind of have your thing. But with me, you didn't even like list my resume, honey. You just you just glossed over that. So I didn't get the huge introduction.
Everybody, this is my husband, Curtis. He's joining me on my podcast episodes. There it is.
Good to be here.
Hi.
Good to be here. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm stoked to be here. And a couple things I want people to hear is, number one, this was such a beautiful test of persistence. Let's say that. With how long it's taken us, how many times we've tried our system. Right now, I can see Curtis in the video. He can't see me, but you know what? We're still going forward. And that's the really cool part to remember is you just keep going. So this is actually absolutely perfect for the podcast topics that I'm going to be bringing to the table. Here we go. And one of my mentors says that all the time. He's like, look, you're going to be given exactly what you teach. So of course, this is how it happened.
Of course, it's all perfect, Honestly, it's actually the podcast portion is actually going much better. I feel like we just both kind of said screw it, and we both relaxed a little bit. So I think this is actually much better content, unless it's just the red wine speaking, and I just feel like it's better. Could be that too.
Well, it's the typical Curtis having a drink and me being sober. It's not because I'm pregnant. That's been our relationship. It's always been that way.
The typical, when you say it like that, it kind of sounds a little dysfunctional, but
Oh, no.
As dysfunctional as it may be, it actually has worked out great for us. Somehow.
Yeah. Somehow. Yeah. 18 and a half years together. Your parents still wondering why I'm with you? I'm just kidding. They just love me. Let's be honest.
Well, yes, you've won them over. I would say for sure. It took a little while, but no, I'm just kidding. You and my dad had a little bit of a rocky start, but you guys have now are like.
We sure.
You guys are so close. It's pretty cool.
I would say, I'm very close with both your parents. Your parents. Well, I said to your dad, here's the thing. It's we were talking about it this morning. My dad passed away either 4 or 5 years ago, coming up here on my birthday. I think it's actually 5, if I remember correctly, because I don't think we decided to have Ryan 1 year later. Yeah, so I think it was 5 years ago. But when my dad passed away, I said to your dad, I said, hey, look, and this brings me up to tears. I was like, look, you're the only grandfather my children have.
Yeah.
And that was really important to me. And your mom and I naturally are close, right? We're naturally really, really close. And we're like mother and daughter-ish, right? But your dad and I feel like when my dad passed away, it really became very important to me to have a really strong relationship with your dad, knowing that he was the grandfather figure for our 2 sons at the time.
Yeah.
And then now, obviously, with Ryan in the picture too. So I chose that, though. It wasn't like your dad was like, hey, I want to be really close with you, Krystal. I chose to have that relationship with him.
Yeah, it really started too when you chose to not bite on all his bullshit. So for like my dad is the ultimate shit giver. For those of you out there that don't know my father, which is most of you, he's the ultimate shit giver, and that's just his like language of love language. If he's giving you shit, that actually means he really likes you. And so he gave Krystal a lot of shit when she first came around, and you would bite on it pretty good, and you even got pissed off a little bit one time about something he said, but you just chose to like just realize that's how he is, and if you let it get to you, then it's no fun for anybody.
Yeah, well, this is actually perfect. I used to hear his comments and then I would make things up about it in my mind. And your dad made a comment, and so I turned to him and said, "Fuck you," and walked away at a family birth or a family baby shower. So there was a lot of elements there of feeling actually very disrespectful to not just your dad, but that was actually okay with me. It was more of like, I'm at a family gathering. I'm not a Rasmussen or Jackson by blood. I'm
Yeah,
someone who is,
you might have to answer to him for telling that story on your first podcast too. Now, what he's telling
you know
everybody
what?
what he said.
You know what though, you guys, he is the most incredible man. I love him so much. And you're right though. It took me becoming confident in who I am for your dad not to trigger me. So notice, and this is all what this
Yeah,
podcast is about, is really understanding and mastering your mindset so that you can live your fullest potential. You can live your greatest life, right? And one thing that does not work is when you have people trigger you. Your dad triggered me. And it's, you know what? I love your dad. And one day he'd be so, by the way, he'd be so excited to come on to this podcast. Let's be honest. He would light him up.
you probably
We'll
would.
see. Maybe one day. So when I really started diving into who is Krystal, why am I here? My old self, I didn't have a voice. I chose not to have a voice. So when, sports, athletics, that was easy to excel at. And then it was this thing of getting married, and I remember actually our mentor, Michael, asking me, when do you feel like you gave up your power? And notice the words I'm saying. I gave up my power, and I said, when I got married. And that has nothing to do with you. That has everything in my belief system. And now this is going to go a little, interesting for people, but like even the belief system of the women in my family, right? So I just was like, okay, I'm going to be a wife. And I chose not to show up or stand up and be really vocal. And like a lot of times you'd be like, hey, babe, what do you want to do? And I'm like, oh, whatever you want to do, babe, whatever you want to do. And just be like somewhat of a doormat. So that journey, like when your dad triggered me at that party and I stood up for myself and called him a fucking asshole, was there actually a really big turning point. So thank you, Papa. And thank you. But also thank you that we could have that happen and him and I could be as close as we are today. That's really cool. But it took looking within and Krystal healing these wounds within me so that I'm actually in my power versus being triggered by someone. So I think now I love when I get triggered, it's like this curiosity thing, like, wonder what's that about? So yeah, thank you, Papa. I'm grateful to you.
And that's what that's really at the crux of a lot of our societal issues right now, right? Is people not being able to disagree and still like each other. So like, you got far left and you've got far right, and they are never going to get along. They hate each other, right? And then you have people that are more like centrists, like in the middle. And, I don't try not to let politics trigger me and just kind of take the stance that everyone has their own beliefs. And, their beliefs aren't threatening to me. I mean, there are some like obviously radical ideal politics and stuff like that, radicalists. But I think we just need more people like accepting each other for their beliefs, as long as it's not harmful to themselves or other people, and just respecting each other's beliefs and their wishes and what they want for their life. And not pretending that you know what's best for everybody, and just realizing everyone's on their own journey and doing the best they can to survive, and just to not stop judging each other.
Well, you just said a couple things. Number one, notice that you just said doing their best to just survive. So I'm just bringing that up because that's a very common thing for people to say. I'm just trying to survive. Right? So what is the opposite? What is the opposite that you want? If you don't want people to just survive in this world, what is it that you desire for them?
You asking me personally?
I'm asking you personally.
What do I want for everybody? I mean, it doesn't feel like a deep word. But I just want them to be happy. I mean, how much? Because a lot of, like, when we're not nice to people, it's because we're not happy. When we're scared or fearful, we're not happy. Being happy, just like genuinely happy, and you truly enjoy your life. And like a vast majority of the parts about your life. Of course, there's things we could all get rid of, parking tickets. Okay. But, I just would want people to be happy. There's just a lot of misery and pain. A lot of misery is caused in this world by people that aren't happy. Happy people don't want to go to other countries and bomb the shit out of people and kill innocent people. It's just like, happy people don't drink a ton of alcohol every night to just escape reality. Happy people don't go on Instagram and just tear assholes into people in the comment section. I just would say, if everybody was just happy, it's like really that simple. And looking at the positive side of things, not necessarily being happy with where they're at, but just being genuinely happy. Like, hey, if I'm going to be here, I'm going to be happy. If I'm not happy here, I'm going to go do something that's going to make me happier. Like, if that's just everybody was really just chasing, was just overall happiness, and chose to see the positive things in the world, I mean, and 99.9% of our problems would all be gone, I would imagine.
Yep. Well, I love that you said that, because if you think about the true path of life is to discover, in my belief and Krystal's belief, discover who you are, why you're here, and to be living a joyful, happy, abundant, full life. But the words that you presented is very common amongst most people. I'm just trying to survive.
Yeah, I'm talking about most people. Well, I'm talking about most people. Because most people aren't going around with a I'm here to thrive mentality. It is a lot of I'm just trying to survive. Like, that's a mentality that's very, very, very common in the world. I'm just trying to survive. I'm just getting by, saying shit like that.
Exactly. And that's what I'm so passionate about, is like bringing up, okay, well, what is it that's going on internally for you to feel that? Why do you feel like you only need to survive? And you're talking about, if everybody could just, basically what I heard, if everybody could just love and respect each other, that's what it's all about. Can we love each other for our beliefs, what religion we have, whether we vaccinate, whether we don't vaccinate, how you raise your children? What if we could drop all judgment? And I know that's a big thing to ask for. Yeah. Because it first starts with us. We have to drop our judgment on our own self, because most people are judging themselves. And then that judgment is now going on to other people that they face, right? Yeah. So, really, we could just drop the judgment and be in gratitude for who we are and where we are today in this moment. What if and this is kind of going off on a little tangent here, but like, what if you didn't know what society told you was good or bad, and you just woke up each day and you were like, holy cow, I get to go live this life? Which I know, I get it. That is out of the ordinary, that most people don't think that way. And it's possible to change. And that's what it all comes down to in your mind, is making that choice of like, well, what do you choose? You're talking about people being happy. You can choose to be happy in any moment. You could be having the worst thing happen to you, and you can choose to be happy. It's a choice. And as you heal inside, happen? I know I'm challenging you, huh?
No, not at all. You're just bringing up a lot of really cool stuff. And like, I'm kind of getting these, aha moments because I spend like my whole life with you, and I hear we have a lot of conversations, and I think one reason why you started this podcast and you really are excited. I mentioned in our previous try out a podcast how I think that you're going to end up like you're thinking it'll be high achievers from sports and entertainment and business. I think this is going to turn into a mostly athlete show. And the aha was because we're not getting these types of messages from our president. We're not getting these types of messages from our governors, senators, like the people that are on TV the most outside of actors are the higher up politicians, and then obviously big time athletes. Like you probably see Tom Brady's face just as much as you see Joe Biden's on the TV. Actually, not even close, but Biden's way ahead. So the people that we can look to inspire us are largely athletes, and then you'll also get like a Oscar winner or an Academy Award winner get up there and say some really inspirational shit for sure. But the athletes are the ones that are constantly telling us like to go for our dreams. Like if you can believe it, you can achieve it. Like I was just like you. It's just, there's so much. I grew up in poverty and now I'm in the NFL, or I grew up in poverty and now I'm a world jiu-jitsu champion or MMA fighter, whatever it is. Like the athletes are really the main people in our society that are passing along these messages of like hope and positivity, like all the handicap athletes that are doing crazy shit. Like, so I think athletes are showing us a lot of hope, and ways to better ourselves. They talk about ways to better ourselves, whether it's through nutrition or books that they read, just with their achievements, with what they've overcome throughout their life. And then the messaging that they provide a lot of the times is, they're just stories of inspiration and hope.
Well, and what perfect timing. I mean, we're watching the Olympics. We're watching these athletes that I saw this Instagram video of this girl that someone backed out, some country backed out, and this USA, I don't even know what sport, but she's like calling her mom. She's like, "Mom, I'm going to the Olympics." This is a week ago. Like here, this girl, she thought her dreams were shot. And then she's getting this message that she's going to the Olympics, and talk about like just believing no matter what, right? Like, okay, it's possible. It's possible. And that's what I want people to hear. It's possible, whatever it is. I always say to people, like, I've done a lot of sales conversations in my former career. Before I left to start my own gig, I was doing sales. And I would say to them on the phone, because a lot of people have problems dreaming. A lot of people, when I would say, okay, well, what do you want in your life? And they're like, I don't know. Okay. And our son just walked in. But it's okay. He says he's okay. It's okay. It's just dad. But what I want you to hear, though, is on that, sales conversation, when I'd ask, like, well, what is it's okay, come over here. What's your dream? People would be like, Krystal, I have no idea, or I haven't allowed myself to dream, or I just have no clue. Like, when did we just stop that and why? That's my curiosity question. Like that person that doesn't know, like what made you stop? Who told you to stop? Because, let's go to Walt Disney. It's all about the power of our dreams, right? And it sounds so simple, but I'll acknowledge my mom here. My mom was the one that always taught me to dream big. And Kathy would put, the future belongs to those who believes in the beauty of their dreams by Eleanor Roosevelt. And I had that quote up in my room. And, I had pictures of Michael Jordan up in my room. And it was like, my dream at 10 years old was to play college athletics. I actually thought it was soccer in that moment at 10, because that was my favorite sport. And then it turned to basketball. And then I found my love of volleyball and went and played, collegiate volleyball. But that dream was 7, 8 years in the making, starting at 10 years old, and like, here's your permission. What if today you're sitting there like, shoot, you know what? I don't allow myself to dream either. What if today you just gave yourself the permission of like 10 minutes and you sit down, and I have this exercise I give my clients where I have them draw a heart in the middle of a piece of paper. I love hearts. And yes, guys, you can draw a heart, or if you don't want to draw a heart, that's okay. You can draw a circle and you put your name in it.
Shape of a football.
Or the shape of a football, or whatever it is that lights up your soul. So maybe just do that. Whatever lights you up, put something around your name. But then you draw these lines out, and like, here's where I was going in the conversation, and then I kind of shifted. But if anything and everything was possible and no one would tell you that you could or couldn't do it, what would you want in your life? And allow that piece of paper to just like, let your heart sing, let your heart just go, and write them all down. And that to me is one of the most beautiful things that we can ever give ourselves. And that's free. And people want, what is the trick? What is this? What is that? What is the thing I need to take? Or I have this and I need to take this medication. And it's like, no, people are just lost. They're not connected with who they are. And it's a choice.
And to be clear, you're not telling anybody not to take their medication.
Okay, yes, thank you. Please go take your medication if you need to.
So give everyone like a final description of what they can expect on the Krystal Jackson show moving forward. Am I going to be a regular? Are you going to what's this thing going to look like?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. Well, first of all, if you're listening to this, number one, thank you for being here. And number two, if you hear this and you know there's someone that could use this fun conversation with my husband, yes, honey, you're invited back. My ask is that you actually pass this along to someone who you believe that this would make a difference for. Because to me, this is not just a single person effort. This is a joint effort of like, what if we all came together and chose a new belief that everything's possible? And it starts with me, you individually believing. So what you can count as on Mondays, it'll be an episode of you and me, most likely. Maybe every once in a while, just me, but most likely you and me. I think we have I know we do. We've been married 16 years, together 18 and a half years. And we can, there's a lot that we can talk about and share with our personal life as well. We're just fun. I think we're fun. We talk to each other in a great way. And then the second part is on Thursdays, we'll be a professional athlete, Olympian athlete, high performer, someone who I'm really inspired by. That's the best way to say it. It's going to be someone that moves me, that inspires me, that I want to learn. This podcast is about me learning and me sharing, right? That was the reason. Like, I've been interviewing people for years, but never put it into a formal podcast. And every time after an episode that I interview people, I'm like, gosh, this is so fun to learn, to pick this person's brain, to learn from this person what are the struggles that they've gone through and how did they get through it? So what you can expect is, we're going to talk about mindset. We're going to talk about performance. It's going to be vulnerable and authentic, because I'm not here to put on, the mask that we have it all together. I want us to, or my vision is, hey, we're all on the same journey. Some of us might be a little bit ahead of the other person, but that doesn't matter. We're all on our individual journey of becoming our greatest version. And to me, that's everything. And that's why, going back to Kobe real quick, Kobe inspired me, yes, as an athlete, like watching him, like his athleticism was, and more than his athleticism, actually, his determination on the court. And same as a little girl when I watched Michael Jordan, right? Fascinated by them. It's the listening to Kobe and how he approached life that is so exciting to listen to. Still, I'll just listen to videos of his, and the way that he approached life of like, the world is your oyster. Excuse me, I said that wrong. Oyster? Is that right? Oyster?
Oyster.
The world is your oyster.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for loving me for me.
Yes.
And that
Honey,
he's
I've been getting used to those fun spelling rearrangements, I'll just call them, for 18 and a half years now.
well, you're welcome. You're welcome, honey. This has been a dream that's been on my mind, and it's really interesting what it took or why it took so long. And with all of that, I always trust that it's perfect. So today was the day that it was meant to happen, and this message was supposed to go out. So, it's a lot of what we'll be talking about too, not beating yourself up, right? I mean, I like to say, and I know we will wrap it up in 1 second, but I like to say, at one point in my life, I would say I was professional at beating myself up. Nothing was ever good enough. And so we get to touch on that a lot in this, because what if we could look at life and not beat ourselves up, but rather like learn our lesson and move forward? All right, so that's it for episode number 1. If you like this episode, make sure you download this and also subscribe to this podcast so you get notifications on each podcast that comes out. And make sure to follow me on Instagram. My name is at Krystal Sue Jackson. And if you want to follow Curtis, he's at Coach Curtis Jackson. All right, babe, that's it for
right.
today.
All right, thanks.